Her mother sighed, her old eyes clouded with pain she tried hard to hide. She placed the calabash gently on the ground and reached for Nali's hands. "My daughter, come closer." Nali leaned in, resting her head on her mother's shoulder despite her long neck bending at an awkward angle. Her mother stroked her arm slowly, comfortingly. "Do you know that the eagle is mocked by chickens before it learns to fly? People laugh at what they cannot understand. But Mama, I don't feel like an eagle. I feel like a mistake." "Never speak like that again. You are not a mistake. You were born exactly as the gods intended." "Then why do they hate me? Sometimes I wish I could cut it off." "Cut what off?" "My neck. If it were short like theirs, maybe I would be normal." "Do you think I carried you for 9 months only for you to hate the body you came with?" "The spirits do not waste pain, my child. They are shaping you, preparing you. Your destiny is tied to something powerful. Something not meant for ordinary people." Suddenly, strange things began to unfold in the village. There was a sudden draft in water. The rain had stopped falling, leaving the earth dry and cracked. The river, once full of life and water, had turned a strange, deep red. Its surface shimmered unnaturally under the harsh sun. The villagers had never seen anything like it. Fish floated lifelessly, their eyes staring blankly at the sky. The riverbank was littered with dead animals, goats, chickens, and even birds, all lifeless without a single scratch on their bodies. It was as if something invisible and cruel had passed through, leaving death in its wake. The people were suffering too. They were weak, their skin pale, and their eyes sunken. Fever burned through their bodies, and many fell to the ground, unable to stand. Mothers clutched their children in despair, while the elders looked on helplessly. Medicines from the market did not work. The herbs gathered from the forest seemed powerless. Even the native doctors, wise men of old who had always known the ways of spirits and nature, were baffled. They performed countless rituals, made fires, chanted prayers, and offered sacrifices to the gods. They burned incense, poured libations, and even gave offerings of animals, hoping to appease the spirits. But nothing worked. Every day brought more sickness, more death. Nali's mother was among the sick. Her face was pale as paper, and her body lay motionless under the thin blanket on their small mat. Nali sat beside her mother, holding her hand and feeling the shallow rise and fall of her chest. Every time she looked around, she saw the sorrow and fear of the villagers. Children wandered the streets, crying because their parents were gone. Cows and goats had stopped grazing, the crops were withering under the burning sun. Nali's heart ached with a pain she could not describe. Goats staggered as if their legs could no longer hold them. Birds began to fall from the trees, their wings frozen mid-flight, yet none of them had wounds, no bites, no blood, no marks. And then, as the sun climbed high into the sky one morning, Nali felt something stirring within her. Her neck, which had always been long, began to stretch even further. Slowly, carefully, almost painfully, it rose higher and higher. From her vantage point, she could see beyond the village, beyond the forest, and across the distant hills. The view was strange but beautiful. She could see the path of the river that now ran like blood, the darkened trees, and the pale, sickly fields that surrounded her home. Nali's eyes widened as she noticed something far away, a glimmer of water in a dry, barren land. It looked like a small pit, but it sparkled as though it were calling to her. She had never seen it before, yet she felt drawn toward it, as if some invisible force were guiding her. With care and effort, she stretched her neck farther than she ever had, inch by inch, until she could look down upon the distant land. The village had become silent, the only sound being the weak groans of the sick and the occasional cry of a dying animal. Nali's own heart beat fast. She realized that whatever this strange water pit was, it might hold the answer to the sickness that had cost her home. The next day, Nali rose before dawn. Her legs carried her faster than they had ever moved before, almost as if the earth itself were helping her. She walked through the forest, past trees with leaves blackened from the heat, and through fields that had turned brown and brittle. Animals shied away from her as she passed, sensing some strange power within her. Nali did not stop. Finally, she reached the land where the water glimmered. It was a small pit, round and deep, surrounded by stones that shone faintly under the sun. The water was pure, sparkling like liquid crystal, and the air around it felt alive. Birds had returned here, their feathers bright and full of life, chirping in a harmony that reminded Nali of the riverside she once knew. She knelt by the water and dipped her hands in. The moment her fingers touched the surface, a cool sensation spread through her body, calming her. The water seemed to hum, as if it were alive. She remembered the stories her mother had told her as a child, tales of spirits that lived in the rivers, protecting the land and its people. Perhaps this was one of them. Without hesitation, Nali filled her small clay pot with the water and began the journey back. She walked quickly, guided by the invisible force that had led her here. Along the way, she noticed that the forest seemed to awaken. Trees that had drooped lifelessly began to sway gently. Flowers that had closed in despair now opened their petals, shining like tiny suns. Animals emerged from hiding, following her as if they understood that she carried something precious. When Nali returned to the village, the people gathered around her, curious and weak, their bodies trembling. She took the water and poured it into the river. At first, nothing seemed to happen. The red water remained thick and dark, but slowly, almost imperceptibly, the color began to fade. Clear water emerged, bubbling and flowing, washing the blood-red stains away. Fish returned, swimming quickly and freely. The riverbank shook as frogs croaked, and birds swooped down, dipping their wings into the river. People watched in amazement. Those who had been too weak to rise found strength returning to their limbs. The sick began to recover slowly, coughing out the last remnants of fever and pain. Nali's mother opened her eyes for the first time in weeks. Tears streamed down her cheeks as she embraced her daughter, holding her tightly. The village erupted with joy, singing songs of gratitude and relief. The villagers ran towards Nali, but this time, they weren't afraid of her long neck. Instead, they were filled with joy and gratitude. They lifted her up, hugging her, and thanking her for bringing back the healing water. Their faces, once filled with fear and worry, were now beaming with joy and happiness. They lifted her up, cheering and singing, as they celebrated the miracle that had brought their village back to life. The villagers were amazed by what had happened. The sick were getting better, and the river was flowing clear again. Nali's mother was embracing her daughter, tears of joy streaming down her face. The village was filled with the sound of laughter and music as people danced and celebrated together. Nali felt happy and proud, knowing that she had helped her community. She had discovered a special gift, and she was using it to make a difference. The villagers were grateful for her kindness and generosity, and they showed their appreciation by celebrating her as a hero. And so, Nali did what no one else could. She continued to stretch her neck every day, reaching higher and higher, exploring the lands beyond the village. She discovered hidden springs, secret rivers, and ancient wells, each with its own strange power. With each new water source, she brought life and healing back to her people. Seasons changed, and Nali grew taller, her neck longer than anyone could imagine. She became a legend, not just in her village but in lands far beyond. Travelers came to see the girl with the long neck who could find water where none existed. She realized that her gift was not just a blessing but a responsibility. She had been chosen, somehow, to protect life and bring balance where death and despair had spread. Years passed, and Nali became a guardian of water, a savior to countless villages.